Welcome to the Secrets to Mindful Health, where we explore the hidden truths of wellness in all its forms. From physical and mental health to spirituality, join me, your host, Beth Warren, at Nourished by Beth on Instagram and TikTok, registered dietitian for over a decade, and single mom of 6, as I share my personal journey overcoming challenges towards self-love and wellness. Together with my guests, we will inspire and motivate you to prioritize your well-being and create a life of balance and fulfillment. Let's embark on a transformative journey towards a healthier, happier you. I'm glad you're here. In this episode of Secrets to Mindful Health, Transformative Healing, Secrets to Cultivating Mindful Wellness with Dushey, we delve deep into the transformative journey of healing from within. Join us as we explore the core principles of mindful health and uncover the secrets to cultivating a holistic sense of well-being. We'll discuss practical strategies for emotional and physical healing, the importance of self-compassion, and how to harness the power of mindfulness in your everyday life. We'll guide you on how to reconnect with your inner self, release past traumas, and embrace a more vibrant, joyful existence. Whether you're on a path of recovery, seeking balance, or simply curious about the healing process, this episode offers valuable tools and inspiration to help you navigate your journey to mindful health. Joy is a New York City-based intuitive energy healer, spiritual guide, and founder of the Joyful Approach and TJA Breathwork Alchemy. With over 20 years of experience in transformative coaching, breathwork, and holistic healing, she helps individuals reconnect with their essence to cultivate joy and vitality. Her journey began after she overcame personal adversity, including a tragic loss and an ischemic stroke at 29, which inspired her to study holistic healing and neuroscience, including breathwork under David Elliott. Joy's spirituality is rooted in Judaism, blending ancient wisdom with her healing practice. She is committed to elevating collective consciousness and empowering individuals on their healing journeys, believing everyone deserves a life filled with joy, connection, and purpose. Her website is thejoyfulapproach.com, and you can follow her on Instagram at thejoyfulapproach. Welcome, Joy.
Hi.
I got so happy just reading that. I think everyone can tell. There's some bios I read on here and they're all very interesting because I pick interesting guests. But so this felt like I love this zone. Like it's just already a positive vibe that you're putting out there.
Thank you so much. It's truly an honor to be with you. And thank you for saying that because it really does light up my heart and my soul to be able to share this work and the whole journey that led me and keeps expanding into more dimensions so that I can share more and more and offer the space for people to heal and to be the best version of themselves. So I feel like it is really a gift, and I'm just so grateful for this opportunity.
I love that. If you can share a little more about your personal journey. I know I said a lot in the bio, but I'm always curious, literal curiosity in an exciting way to know people's way that they found this space because everyone has their own story and it always feels not only more authentic, but it starts connecting to others within your own story. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I want to start with saying, in a nutshell, that my experience from probably being in the worst rock bottom of feeling physically ill, overcoming illness, and through overcoming illness, and also emotional pain, also feeling so lost from any kind of resolve from the state of being that I was in and feeling depressed and so on. That was the greatest moment of transformation for me. So it's all about overcoming despair and what for me at that time where I suffered an ischemic stroke, which was really the rock bottom, where my body could no longer go with all the pain that I was experiencing after losing my brother very tragically and holding that pain in and not having the spaces to heal from that grief and just stuffing and trying to go along with life and filling with external things. Of course, I was so grateful that I was able to be a mother of two beautiful girls, yet I wish that I had the modalities to release the pain, the suffering, and also the anxiety, which turned manifested into anxiety and sadness that turned into depression and so on. And so at that time, where my body just said no more, it was in this forced state of sedentary recovery from the stroke. That was what was my greatest moment of awakening, even though it was a really, really dark time where I knew that there was something bigger. There was something that there had to be. And that was the spark that led into this great awakening where I found holistic healing. Sorry. And that was such a beautiful awakening, like moving away from the medical healing, which I do feel there is value in
Mhm.
medicine and Western medicine. But when I found the Eastern modalities, like for example, acupuncture, I just felt that there was so much more about that world that spoke to me and spoke to my soul. And that was just this beautiful trajectory that led me into the now spiritual world and then the esoteric modalities. And because of that rebirth, because of this whole new world where I was awakened from a very linear way of living or a one dimensional way of living to way more dimensional, I just felt the joy in being able to share what saved me and opened me up to this world, this new way of living that I just was so excited to share with others. And that was a long time ago. That was 20 years
Mhm.
ago. So fast
Right.
forward because it's been a continuous journey. And yeah, and here we are today.
You were one of more of the earlier ones, I feel like now in a great way, or it could just be the algorithm and sensing my vibes, showing me that maybe this has become more mainstream in a sense, not so much Eastern or Western, just more people are more open to it or needing it or needing something. And that's actually my question. I always have this question because I also had I related to a lot of what you said in terms of hitting a rock bottom moment, those words, and having physical symptoms that you could no longer deny or woke you up to something more that needed to be healed or uncovered. What ended up becoming my divorce 5 years ago and that whole transformation was because of crazy panic attacks that I
Mhm.
didn't even know what a panic attack was that started in my sleep. And it was my body like waking me up. And I hear that now, like from a lot of people, especially in forms of panic attacks. And I'm always so curious because we're also going to kind of define what healing is and your sense of what that means. But I'm curious in relation, does everyone need to get to that low rock bottom moment? Does everyone's body need to be screaming? I would love people to connect sooner, but do we all need it? Because that's the similarity I feel a lot.
Right. I hope not. I
Right.
hope that with all the awareness that we have today, all of the modalities that are available to us today, that we don't need to get to that point of the rock bottom.
Right.
And I'm sorry for your experience. And then also, I think it led you to where you are today as well. So,
Yeah, and it opens up, like you said, then you open up in the esoteric thought, and you open, and I see that, and I feel it, and you feel so aligned. So that's everything. You realize that's everything because from that place, everything, then that translates externally, and we'll get into all that. But I I hope, yes, with the awareness, and then what I have been trying to do, and I see you do, and that's what I love. I would love following your work. It's
well,
great, but running, however we want to call them, retreats or wellness days, and even when I ran my women's retreat, it was women never exposed to breath work or anything, and I call them like samplers because I feel in essence someone will spark it might spark a connection in someone, or it might open up a feeling or already a hidden emotion, and then they would want to potentially like get curious about it before it gets to that point. So first, how do you define healing, and what does that mean to you? Like what are people seeking? Like what's is that an end goal? Like are we getting healed? What does that word mean for you?
yeah. So first of all, my title is an intuitive energy healer. And I don't like to say that I'm actually the healer because I'm a facilitator of healing and I provide the space for people to heal.
Hmm.
So essentially, healing has to do with overcoming some kind of disharmony. And there's a spectrum. It could be overcoming, to the highest extreme. It could be an illness, a great adversity, um, and it could also be some kind of misalignment that's taking you out of alignment, taking you out of harmony. And this could be physically, emotionally, could be some kind of trauma that you experience that has really taken you and detoured you from living with vitality. It could be something, a mental trauma. There's so many different variables to why we need healing, and there's so many different modalities for healing. But essentially, it is for overcoming
Hmm.
some kind of disharmony.
Do you feel that in the overcome sometimes opens up another thing to overcome? Is that the process? Is the journey of the or circling around the same thing to only go deeper within it?
I love that so much because I think that has been my journey. It was whenever, I'm super connected spiritually. And so I'd say when I call God Hashem took me out of alignment or there was some kind of discourse, right? That is what led to, if I allowed it, that is what led to some kind of miracle, some kind of
Hmm.
blessing that I wasn't allowing because I was on my course going, just like we all do. We're on the hamster wheel, we're going and doing only what we know. And then sometimes the universe needs to come in and give us a forced stop.
Right.
Right? It could be an injury, it could be some kind of circumstance, some kind of adversity. And through that, if you trust and if you do allow for it, that can lead you to some great transformation.
Right. So it's a transformation in the healing. Like that's sort of synonymous with the healing is transformation. It's really cool. How do you work exactly? What do people typically coming to you with, or do they come just feeling something and they don't know what's wrong? How do we try to navigate for people? How to tap in deeper.
Are you asking what type of clientele or what kind of issues that people come in
Yeah,
with?
what are their issues that they're expressing at least, and or even what unfolds after they express that from what they thought it was.
So, like I said before, there is a spectrum of different, possibilities that people come in with. For example, lately I'm getting more extreme or
Mm.
more serious situations where a woman with a husband that was just diagnosed and she's just completely, super spiritual and so on, but she just really is she's struggling. Or it could be that somebody that's trying to have a baby,
Mm.
they're having a hard time with fertility. It could be like those type of situations. And it could also be that I have women that are now approaching the empty nest and they're feeling like they are at a loss, not really feeling connected to purpose. And they just feel
Hmm.
as their children are growing up and they feel like, what am I here to do? And they're a little bit disconnected from their inner self and their authentic self. So I see that. I also do mentor women that are more high achieving, that are really wanting that kind of coaching, empowerment coaching, and they're here to really feel that support, that realization of all the things, their gifts, that they're here to really shine and to amplify all of their gifts. And I, as a coach, mentor, intuitive, help them to get there, which is super rewarding.
Right.
So there's a whole range. I do see people with physical ailments. I do see people with emotional pain and also feeling disconnected from that beautiful light that's inside of them that I help them to realize is right there. And then we do some, deep diving and remove some of the stagnation that's disconnected them from that beautiful essence that's right there.
So it seems like you try to get people to similar places, but for different purposes, different reasons, different things come up for them, but it's still that like innermost something. I know you run a lot of sound baths, meditations, breath works, and they're super popular. And that's so awesome because I love it. The more exposure people get to this stuff, I'm like, oh, it's great. You're signing up. Where, how does that fit into everything
Mm-hmm.
from your perspective? That kind of
Great
work.
question. Right. So those are modalities, right, that I curate these experiences. Essentially, those modalities are allowing the client, the breather, the member of that retreat or so on, to experience a deeper experience within themselves, a more intimate experience within themselves. And there's a lot of different possibilities through those kind of healing modalities. They all have different benefits, and yet under that umbrella, we are able to really cultivate that more intimate, sacred experience within ourselves that we don't have access to in our day-to-day cognitive way
Hmm.
of living.
I find it so interesting how I threw out a lot there, like breath work, meditation, sound bath. It's again similar to what I said before. It'll serve the similar purpose or the place you want to get to. But what is it about them that makes that happen?
That makes, I'm sorry,
That
just
makes that inner going within yourself happen. Like the
Mhm.
sound, like what is it? We could even break it down slower. Like so
That's
take
better. Yeah.
sound bath for example. Let's take a sound bath because I feel like that is meditation. Let's say even if people don't understand it so much, understand like okay, I'm alone with my thoughts. Let me think about things internal, whatever. But sound baths, it's like how does the sound make us go inward?
Okay. So let's break it down. It's a great
Mm-hmm.
way of approaching this. So, the sound bath, right? The sound symphony, these are a bunch of different instruments that I'm using that have a very high frequency, all different, they allow for different vibrations. And what they do is they harmonize the physiological body, they calm the nervous system through allowing ourselves to essentially get into a deeper state of relaxation and to access different brainwave states, right?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of being in alpha, right, where we're just really high in consciousness, moving around doing things, we're now moving into more like a theta state through this relaxed state. And this is where we is that's actually the best place, first of all, to restore the nervous system, to restore our bodies, to heal some of the chemistry in our body as well, the cellular makeup through these sounds and frequencies, through attuning the nervous system, as well as also manifesting. When we are in a deep, relaxed state and we are in that frequency, in that vibration, that symphony of vibration, we're able to actually dream and move past those limiting beliefs that in our conscious mind, our egoic mind, inhibit those dreams and desires.
Mm.
That's why some people see visions, they actually see colors, they actually start to see, some ideas that their limiting beliefs don't allow them, block them from seeing those
Mm.
visions. So we're not as we're not as inhibited, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Is it because it breaks through the layers or just all the layers are being sensitized a bit or being played with the different levels of
Well,
sound?
again, it's because our conscious mind blocks us. It protects us
Mhm.
from the dream state, from realizing that that's our inherent birthright,
Mhm.
that dream. But the limiting mind, right, the limiting belief is going to say, no, you're not worthy. It's not, you're not beautiful enough. You're not smart enough. That's never going to happen. So we get past that because now we're in that more relaxed state, right? We're in the in between state, and we're in that more relaxed, that where we can actually break through that.
I love that because that totally taps on a major thing. Even when I've had dating podcasts and other things on here, and we tap into the concept of self and having to feel self love for yourself first or through it, and self worth and what that brings up for you. And how do people even tap into that? And with the dating coach, she was explaining some practices you can do for yourself with intention every day. But what you just said sparked in me, why don't you try a sound bath and see what comes up for you
Hmm.
with the intention? I don't, do you, is that what you do? Do you set intentions before to try to
Hmm.
tap into that sense of self?
Yeah, we usually, for example, a client that just left, we had plenty of talk therapy before. We work through some obstacles. We have some strategy, some coaching, strategy
Mhm.
that we work with. We did some meditation, some guidance about heart coherence, and so on. And then we got her on the table, and through declaring what her dreams are and what she's wishing for from her heart space, I led a sound bath for her, a sound healing for her. And that is where she was able to get into that relaxed state, and she's able to visualize those dreams, those desires. And
Mm.
once you do that, you're already bringing it forward, and it's already happening in not this actual right now, this moment of where it's hard to explain it in the way that it is, but you're putting it out to the universe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Would you say that's the essence of, or the ultimate goal of, let's say, manifestation, is to visualize? It's not just the saying it, it's the visualizing the entire scenario, which is such a beautiful feeling because I feel like we're told or put down as, even as kids, like to stop daydreaming or like don't live in fantasy. And then there's a delicate balance of living in fantasy to escape and living in a dream to bring in reality.
Absolutely. For me, I think the most powerful manifestations of my own life were through visualizations. And I was such a dreamer from at such a young age. I lived through my dreams. I lived through, and I really believed them. I
Hmm.
really, really trusted that they were real, and I had the power to manifest from a young age.
Right. What sign are you?
So my sun is in Aries,
Yeah.
and then my rising is Aquarius, and my moon is Gemini. What
Huh.
about
I
you?
was thinking I'm Cancer and I have actually a lot in Scorpio, 3 planets in Scorpio. And my
Wow.
sun is in Leo, though. I'm on the cusp. Gregorian, I'm a Leo. I'm a Cancer, Hebrew calendar. And I started taking Kabbalistic astrology. So I'm still on like a basic level. But everything you were saying about dreaming and manifestation and at a young age, that's what I've been told from people who really know how to read my birth chart, that I have that like essence to channel and I do dream very vividly. And yeah, so I was sensing that, but you're so not what I'm still, I guess I'm still on my low level of,
No, so in Jewish astrology, also I had a beautiful reading, and I'm a Pisces sun.
oh,
Yeah,
so that's water too.
yeah, and it's very much in
Oh,
the dream state, lives in the dream.
yeah.
So,
That's so beautiful. And I just feel like that's so loving to, at least it was for me, the process to start loving those. For me, those parts were quote unquote deemed unlovable, earlier because I wasn't in the accepted or living authentic, and then therefore not living authentically and all that kind of stuff. So now I love when I hear that it's something you had since you were younger, and
mm,
then it just sat well with me. It just felt really nice that.
yes, I absolutely am very bad at it in inner child work, and I think that I'm super compassionate over, for my little girl, my little joy. And I think, something that when I was a little girl, my mom, I used to say I was the fourth child. And at that time, my mom was very busy, and my parents actually. And I would say, Mom, I'm so bored, which meant really that I was sad and I wanted to play with somebody and
Yeah.
I wanted attention, or I wanted her to play with me.
Mm.
And she would say, Oh, honey, just color. You'll be fine. Keep yourself busy, color. So I'd have tons of coloring books, tons of paper, and crayons and markers. And I realized that that was such a gift because I colored my life. I lived through coloring and through
Mm.
seeing, painting the canvas of my manifested life in my future. So,
That's
yeah.
also a really nice way to think about things because that is the truth, meaning however we lived when we were younger had impacted us for who we are as we're older. I have other reasons why I am so sporty and athletic. I wanted my father's love and we were all girls. And I felt like and now I realize if I acted more sporty, he would love me, let's say, to an
Mm.
extent. But I'm so grateful because I love sports. I really authentically do. And it's a major part of me and has, less to do with him than it has to do with who I am. So it's all so interesting. And all this work also opens up the space to that's in essence healing,
Hmm.
meaning finding a place with things that of course you can read how but it shouldn't have been like that, like you didn't need to like prove for love, but at the same time we do you help people reach a level of acceptance? Like, is there some point where it's like, we're not looking to shift, we're not looking to change or do, we're more looking to, find ourself in this a bit?
Yes, I love that question. So essentially, what we want to do is we want to meet the experience, right? We don't want to bypass the pain, the trauma, the non love, and all that cause that disharmony. So we want to meet the experience. There should be some emotional meeting with, we want to be able to feel our feelings
Hmm.
around those times and those memories and the traumas that perhaps um, were manifested because of them. And then after that, we're going to do some somatic work for the
Mm.
healing of those experiences. And then we do, there is some acceptance around it. And then the forgiveness. It's a whole process. And I know
Hmm.
it can sound really entailing and it doesn't have to be. But then there's also like the neuro wiring that we can do. And that is done with NLP. It's also done through binaural beats and reprogramming. There's ways in which we can rewrite the story,
Mm.
right? The story still exists, and then we can rewrite the story as well.
Is that more for deeper traumas? And I'm saying that in the way where it must be all relative, right? Like it must be in the way it's affecting someone. Yes, because I've actually never dabbled in that. That's like one of the things we're talking about that I haven't done. But is that used typically for something that is more deep, or heavily traumatic, or just in general?
It could be in general. It depends on the client, it depends on the
Hmm.
person that is having the experience and how much it impacted them.
Right.
We always say there's little T traumas and big T traumas. Somebody's like being pushed off the swings could be someone's really abusive experiences in childhood. It doesn't,
Right.
it's all,
That's relative, I guess.
yeah.
What I wanted to help people feel, though, from what you said, where you touched on, it sounds like it's a lot or it sounds overwhelming. But what I would say is, at least for me, the more I do it or the more I've done it, the quicker I could tap in, the quicker I could quote unquote tap out. It doesn't have to be more than what it is. And you're kind of like smiling the whole way through it in a sense because you know where you're going and or you want to be in a sense of how you're going to come through it. And so I would say that like it just becomes like we use a lot the example of exercise here where or athleticism especially than exercise where you really got to do the work in order to understand those days you want to push through. You're not going to know how to push through if you never experienced what it felt like on the other side. So
Mhm.
of course it's challenging, of course it's a block, and no, it's not easier. If anything, it's harder for athletes when they're off because they know the level they can get to, but they do also know how to push through it to get to it quicker. So that's, I feel like, what this whole journey starts becoming.
Totally. I feel that we really we need our tools. We need to have those resources and we need continuity with our practices that really resource us. And recently a client asked me, how do you know when you're really healed from trauma? And I said, just notice your triggers. Notice the volume of your triggers. Notice if you revisit the same experience, if you revisit something that's familiar, notice your energy, notice how you're feeling, how your reactivity. If you feel that it doesn't phase you anymore, you are healed. And yet, it might resurface at some point, depending on how resourced you are. And that's where you have your toolkit and you can just pull them out whenever needed.
Yeah. That's why it's called a toolkit. I totally agree with that, that you try all these different things and you just know what you can try. You start to know what you need in the moment. Like even if it's just yoga for me or hot yoga, I know I need that extreme heat to really pull my focus with I need a level of intensity. Well,
Mhm.
also that's just a lot of the Scorpio in me, but I need the intensity to really pull me, into something or through it. And so, yeah, you just get really good at knowing yourself and what you need and how to use these modalities. You don't need to do all of them at once or all the time. I'll go 6 months doing one thing. I'll put it aside. I'll do another thing. I'll go back to that one thing. Like it ends up becoming just so resourceful for you. You know how to take care of yourself. You know to work through things. And then what you said about re-experiencing something and notice how you move through it, 100%. 100%. Even in the moment, you can become aware that you are moving through it. You can get to a point where while you're going through it, you notice that this like, you can be honest about yourself. It's a little different. And then after, you have to be honest about it. You're like, but actually, that was not so crazy. Now, the thing is that I'm taking that a step further of all these things I'm listening to recently, like let's say even like Kabbalistically, we can say, I really notice that I'm sometimes experiencing very similar things just to experience them again to show myself. You know how people say sometimes it's showing you the work you've done, you need to still do? Sometimes it's showing you the work you did. Like it's there
Totally.
on purpose so you can see this is what I needed to see this again to see that whatever I've been doing or working on actually worked. It's also good to surround yourself with people who think, supportive people, which I think we should talk about, who was like, you needed to experience that again. Like, look how, because I was like, I saw it from a completely different, I was like, what was I thinking this whole time? Oh no, this is not for me. And in a way that was very comfortable, because obviously I did a lot of work in those 6 months, let's say. And she was like, you needed to experience that conversation. You needed to be in that scenario again to be like, huh, okay, and that's all it felt. That's what it felt like the purpose was.
Yes. So, people that are invested in conscious dating, I feel that it is a great lens for people to witness their growth.
Hmm.
If you are courageous enough to keep going and you have the endurance and the perseverance to do it, you can really witness your growth through, taking, revisiting, and seeing and viewing your own self and in the experience. I love when my clients come back to me and they love to share their wins and they love to show that how they showed up on a date, and it wasn't about the actual date, it was more about their own growth
Mhm.
through that experience.
Right. That's what gets so funny about it is like you're not even talking about the guy. Oh
Yeah,
wait, aren't you trying to find like your partner? It's like I don't even know who that was. I'm just like so happy like about myself right now. And I
exactly.
think you used the right word, conscious. I guess I keep harping on the words intentional, but conscious felt really nice because it's that could be in anything like conscious parenting, where if you're going at it from the lens of working on yourself or working like how you're showing up for you, for everyone, then there's always a different perspective you can view in your life. We were starting to touch on the fact concept of support. Where do you think that plays a role in all this? Even if taking it back when you were going through a lot of things you were going through, like I definitely felt very alone in what I was going through because I also wasn't familiar to me. What am I experiencing? What is this? Why are other people not? Am I like, and I felt very alone. I personally had to learn what support even looks like. That's appropriate support, what it means to have supportive people around you. But then once I understood that, growing my circle to have people being more aligned with me also and how much that's impacted and helped. So where do you find the role of support in the work you do? Is that something you try to help people find as well in their process?
Absolutely. So I didn't mention before, most of the people that come to me are usually having some kind of awakening, or they're experiencing some kind of shift internally, and they know that their life is no longer resonating in the way that they've been going. So that is a spark for some kind of awakening that's happening, which really lights me up, because even though it can feel really lonely and painful at that time, where they feel really like, this is not working for me anymore. I don't know the people that I'm hanging out with, like the things that we're doing. It's just not lighting them up anymore. And so that's where it can feel really lonely, because you're on the precipice of some kind of change in your life. And it can be really scary as well. And so with myself, this was my awakening was so long ago. And at that time, I definitely felt like I was some kind of dark, some kind of lone wolf. And I just was really feeling isolated. But at the same time, I'm also an Aquarius rising, which, you're always going to kind of feel weird and feel like nobody gets you.
Yeah.
um, Although, what I love so much is that as I started to spend more of my time on this journey, the universe sends you those people that just happen to, you experience these synchronicities, and those are really, messages from Hashem, from God, that are sending you these little angels or people along the way, where you feel so seen by and so supported. And you treasure those people. And then we realize that we have different friends for different reasons. We realize we have our friends that we socialize with, the people that we have fun with, and then we also have the people that we might be, just one girlfriend that's your best cheerleader, that, really, she sees you, she has you through everything, through the worst, the darkest time, no matter what, she's always there for you. And I think that it's really important to, we've done in workshops throughout all the years of the joyful approach, where we do like the tiers, we reevaluate as we are growing and, more evolving. We will then start to look at our circles, and we look at the tiers of our circles. So the nucleus might be that one friend that's your cheerleader. She has you no matter what. And then there, the second tier, she's like somebody that, you can count on, but she's not the person that you really can read your journal to, right?
Right.
And then you have the third tier, and so on and so on. It is very important to have those people that you feel support you. They see you. They are unconditionally, supporting you and loving you throughout. And that might be a mentor. It might be a therapist. It might be, your best friend. There's just so many different people, but hold on to them, because they're all so important. All of them are.
Right.
And what I realized today is I have different circles of amazing friends, and I'm so grateful.
Right. And I like what you said about the coming into your life at different times. They also are reflecting either the work you're doing or the work or your next level of work that you need to do.
Yeah. And they don't need, people don't need to totally fall away, is what I was trying to say. It's like
Yeah.
you can still have them in your life, but maybe they're not the people that you're spending your day to day with, or calling when you're in some kind of crisis, right?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like we should clarify maybe some like common misconceptions with this kind of work, like what
Mhm.
people might feel reluctant to pursue it.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think that people are afraid, right? Because people are afraid of change, right? People are afraid of that my whole world has to change if I get into visiting that deeper layer within me, within myself,
Hmm.
right? Visiting those more intimate places, my feelings might be a signal it's time to change a relationship, or so on. And that's really what I would like to stress. It's doesn't Don't be afraid, because if you do stay away from it, I'm just telling you, it's going to come back to bite you some way or another. And it's really your soul that is really signaling it's time to do some kind of healing work. It's time to come in and get into this more intimate sacred space with yourself.
I love that. I'm trying to think back on our conversation because there was a lot here. If we wanted to summarize things for our listeners, or you want to leave them with a message, what would it be?
Okay, so there's so much I can say right now, but I want to say that everybody on this planet is worthy of living a joyful life. We are all worthy and we are all deserving. It's our birthright to live with joy. And sometimes it's about reevaluating, sometimes it's about taking stock and noticing what needs to fall away, what needs to come back into alignment. And once you can start coming back into alignment, once you could start realizing what you love to do, what brings you joy, and what's not serving, that's already a step towards a joyful life.
I think it doesn't take much. It takes work, but it doesn't take much connection other than that.
Well, it takes reflection, it takes inner awareness, and it takes courage.
Yes. A lot of courage. And that's the empowering feeling you have after, because it took courage for you to do it.
At the reward of living your joyful life.
Which is what's most important. I love that. Okay, so for people to follow you, they can follow you at The Joyful Approach on Instagram or visit you at thejoyfulapproach.com. Thank you so much for coming on.
I loved it. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Don't forget to hit subscribe or follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nourished by Beth, or listen on Spotify at the Secrets to Mindful Health podcast.